I need to drop a wide receiver. Who should I drop this week? That and so much more on tonight's episode of the Football Guys Mailbag Show. And that's the first question we've got here from our friend Eric Reimer. And Eric is asking, between Chris Godwin, Gabe Davis, Cortland Sutton, and Alan Lazard, who do I drop this week? Tough question here. Tough decisions need to be made through bye weeks. Victoria, start us off out of this group. Who are you dropping?
Oh, I got to start us off. That's a lot of pressure. This is a lot of pressure. Eric, this is a tough decision here. I like all these guys, but it's got to be for me between Cortland Sutton and Alan Lazard. Now, Alan Lazard, had a little shoulder injury, didn't play this last week against Buffalo. Looks to be back on track, though, and practicing this week. And he was consistent, either a touchdown or 100 yards in all the games that he's played. So with the struggles that are going on in Denver right now, I think I would drop Sutton. I hate to say it because I love all these guys, but Godwin's a nice PPR machine. Gabe Davis is going to have those blow-up games, and he's going to have those 5-point games like last week. And I think those are the guys. I think I got to drop Sutton here. What do you guys think?
Well, I just want to point out real quickly, Eric is in the chat right off the bat. So thank you for the question, Eric. Thank you for being in the chat. Just want to say what's up. Thank you for tuning in every single week. But back to the question, Troy, who are you dropping? I think we're all on the same page here. Chris Godwin, Gabe Davis, probably not the guys that you're thinking about dropping. So between Cortland Sutton and Alan Lazard, I think that's really where the question is. Troy, who would you drop out of those two?
Sure. Let's pour it out for Dave because these are both Dave's guys. So I know this is very hard for him to answer this question. I think that the Packers are also not a good offense, but at least Lazard's the wide receiver one there. It got to be Sutton, man. The Broncos are just horrible. They're just absolutely disgusting. I'll drop Sutton. I don't want to drop any of them, but out of these options, I got to go Sutton.
Yeah, I mean, in the preseason, we had Sutton firmly ahead of Alan Lazard. I think just about everybody did. But, I mean, this is just a pretty anemic offense right now in Denver. And Sutton has had a few big games here. But, the targets are getting distributed pretty evenly among Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy. And now we got Greg Dulcich in the mix as well. When Alan Lazard is on the field, he is the unquestioned wide receiver one for the Packers. Over the weeks that he has played, he is the wide receiver 17 in points per game over those weeks. He, outside of the game that he got knocked out of, 2 weeks ago with that shoulder injury, he had a touchdown or 100 yards in every single game played so far this season. So still not the sexiest name, but we're looking at, middling wide receiver 2 numbers for Alan Lazard. Cortland Sutton is kind of a boomer bust wide receiver 3 at this point. So I am going to drop Sutton as well, but not a bad problem to have if you got a wide receiver core loaded up like that. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for tuning in to another episode of the Football Guys Mailbag Show. As always, we start the show off by answering our pre-submitted questions, and then at the end of the show, we will get into the chat. Because it's in season and we are getting so many great questions from everybody, we are actually going through and just doing 4 pre-submitted questions today. And then we're going to spend the next 30 or 40 minutes answering your chat questions. So drop them right now so we can see them. If you're watching live right now, give us a thumbs up because that's going to help some other viewers find this channel so we can help them out as well. And of course, make sure that you are subscribing to youtube.com/footballguys. Before we go ahead and get into the rest of these questions, Victoria, let everyone know where they can find you on social media.
You can find me at FFB_Victoria on Twitter and Instagram.
And Troy, let everyone know where they can find you.
You guys can find me at TKing Mode, pretty much on all social media platforms. Twitter's my home base, though.
Yep. And you can find me on Twitter at Dave Kluge. That's Kluge. But most importantly, be sure to follow Football Guys at Football Guys. We're sharing our content there. We got some fun graphics, videos, promoting some other shows, and so much more. Let's go ahead and dive into the next question, though. And this one comes from our Discord channel. And Z-Man is saying, I can pick up Alan Lazard and play him this week. Wondering if that's a good idea or not. Troy, start us off. We already talked about Alan Lazard a little bit. If he's on the waiver wire and you picked him up, we got a lot of teams on bye this week heading into week 9. Are you confident just plugging Alan Lazard right into your lineup?
Yes, it's for all the reasons we already talked about. Beggars can't be choosers, especially when you're going to bye week hell. Alan Lazard, the wide receiver 1. I know the Packers haven't looked that great, and maybe that's why there's some hesitation there. And I know he's coming off a shoulder injury, but I think that you should confidently be able to play him as at least a flex.
Victoria, what are your thoughts? I mean, are you just plugging him in?
Absolutely. I don't know about y'all, but did you open your matchups for this week today at all and just say, "Oh, I thought
Been
week
bad.
7 was bad." Oh my goodness, I look at my entire bench as bye players. Yes, absolutely. Lazard plug and play this week. The Lions just gave up so many fantasy points to the Dolphins receivers in week 8. I mean, obviously, the Dolphins receivers are pretty elite and they're doing pretty good over there, right, Troy? But you can play your wide receivers and your running backs, all your positions against that Lions defense. Yes, plug and play, baby.
Yeah, and I was, I was going to talk about the matchup a little bit, but yeah, I mean, this is the type of matchup where you're playing Alan Lazard, Romeo Dubs, Aaron Jones, AJ Dillon, Robert Tunyon. They're playing the Lions. You play everybody against the Lions. How many like no-name guys have we seen pop off this season against the Lions? The Packers have been a pretty bad offense so far this year, but I think that facing off against the Detroit Lions is kind of a recipe to get them back on track. So this could easily be one of the first times that we see the Packers offense look like the old Packers offense. So yeah, my answer is yes, you're playing Alan Lazard. I think you can also play Romeo Dobbs. If you're really desperate, or if you're in a 14 or a 16 team league, you might even want to go as deep as Sammy Watkins and plug him in as a flex. I
Ew.
cannot get enough of the Green Bay Packers this week going up against the Detroit Lions. Troy, I heard an ew there, but come on, wide receiver 3 or a flex in a 14 or 16 man league. You're not going deep in the Sammy Watkins this week.
I mean, I would. If I was in that deep of a league, I would do it. But
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking outside of my top 40 wide
yeah,
receivers
yeah,
here,
yeah,
but if you're
yeah.
looking for a
I
desperation
would. I
flyer,
would.
you play the guys that are playing against the Lions. That's kind of the recipe for success so far this season. Let's go ahead and get into this next question, though, and this one comes from Motor City B. 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, 1 flex in a half PPR league. I was just offered CeeDee Lamb for DeAndre Swift. Should I accept or should I reject? Now, we had some context with this one as well. Victoria, do you have that context pulled up by chance? If not, I can pull it up while you guys talk a little bit here.
I do. Here's the context. We've got this guy's team. He has Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, Michael Carter, Gus Edwards for running back. Wide receivers, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Olave, Amari Cooper.
His team's really good.
But running backs, I'll repeat again, Jonathan Taylor, Travis Etienne, Michael Carter, Gus Edwards. I think he's stronger at receiver already with Tyreek, T. Higgins, Chris Olave, Cooper. I think you're diminishing your return for CeeDee Lamb. That's great, but you're giving up DeAndre Swift now. We've talked about him the last couple of weeks, right, Troy? What has he done for me lately? The injury, again, didn't practice today, though it could be a Wednesday rest day. I get that, but you're still going to downgrade at running back if you're losing him. Jonathan Taylor's been struggling with that ankle injury. Travis Etienne's on the rise, but then your other 2 guys, Michael Carter, Gus Edwards, they're kind of boom or bust there too, especially with James Robinson now in the backfield with Michael Carter, going to muddy it up a little bit more these next couple of weeks. I don't think I would do this trade with the context. What do you guys think?
Yeah, and we also just got to talk about DeAndre Swift kind of as a whole. We had him pegged as an RB1 this offseason. A lot of people said that he had overall RB1 potential, comparing him to Christian McCaffrey and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, we've seen the explosiveness. Like, we know the talent that DeAndre Swift has, but we're at the halfway point through the season. And Jamal Williams isn't going anywhere. He keeps getting those goal line touches. And I mean, as somebody who has DeAndre Swift in a lot of leagues, I can tell you firsthand, it is extremely frustrating. But then last week, it wasn't even the usage that we had seen earlier in the season. I mean, this is back-to-back weeks now where he has been in extremely limited roles. And frankly, I'm just getting a little bit confused at this point because he is the best running back on the team. I mean, he's explosive. He does what he does well. But now this is a 1-win Lions team. They're probably already looking forward to 2023 and just waiting for this season to get over with. I don't think they're going to shut DeAndre Swift down by any means, but do you think that maybe they're getting a call from up top saying, hey, let's keep our blue chip running back as healthy as possible? Because it seems weird for a team that is struggling to get wins out, why they aren't giving the ball to their best player more often. I don't know if either of you guys wanted to kind of shed some light here, but I'm starting to get mildly concerned about DeAndre Swift.
I mean, I'll jump in because I think maybe it's a combination of, you mentioned the whole blue chip thing. The record's not good, but it's also because he keeps getting hurt off of the workload they're trying to give him. He's clearly still struggling with injuries, right? So I don't know how they're going to possibly give him more work on a consistent basis if he's always struggling with injuries. And that's why we're seeing Jamal Williams. That's why we're seeing Jamal Williams factored in, because they're trying to take the workload off of Swift. And one thing I think we've seen with Swift in the past is he doesn't always get a lot of volume. He's just really efficient with his touches, but it's, it is kind of dangerous territory if he's not breaking a long run or if he's not scoring, if he is going to be limited. So I am worried about that aspect, right? It's not about the talent. He's still extremely talented running back, but I think it's fair to be a little bit concerned about him going forward because I don't see this changing, right? It's not like this week or next week, oh, he's going to get 15 to 16 touches. He's not. He's going to be in the same role, and you're just hoping for he can just use his efficiency, his athleticism, explosiveness to take it to the house or whatever. Or maybe he gets targeted a bunch of times. Maybe they're down and, oh, let me throw it to Swift. So you're hoping for that. So from that aspect, I'm a little bit concerned.
Yeah, and we saw it in week 1. I mean, week 1, he had 18 touches, 175 scrimmage yards, and a touchdown. And we thought, yeah, this is the DeAndre Swift that I drafted at the 1-2 turn. This is exactly what I expect for him. Played 67% of the snaps. That was a career high or a season high in rushing yards, season high in touches, season high in snap count. It has been downhill since then. And I mean, week 2, he was healthy and we saw his touches get pretty limited. And then since he's come back from the injury, we've seen back-to-back games where his touches have been limited as well. So, I mean, are we at the point now where instead of looking at DeAndre Swift as a plug-and-play RB1, I mean, is he just like fancy Nyheim Hines now because of the role that he has in this offense? It's getting pretty frustrating.
The disrespect, fancy name.
I'm not talking about the talent. I'm talking about the fantasy production. I mean, this guy is pretty limited to a pass-catching role. He's not getting goal line work. And over the last 3 games that we've seen him play, 5, 7, and 5 Garys.
Yeah, it's bad. It's pretty bad.
So, I mean, what do you do? I mean, so I guess outside of this question, right? Like, let's say, are you still confident in ranking him as an RB1? Because obviously you're saying fancy Nyheim Hines deserve to be ranked as an RB1, or is he more of a high-end RB2 with upside? I don't like what do you think, Dave? Because you gave him a new nickname. So what's your opinion on it?
Based on the production we've seen for the last couple of weeks, I don't even know if you can say a high-end RB2. I think he's more of just a middle-end RB2, somewhere in that like 15 to 18 range. And it's not because of DeAndre Swift, the talent. I mean, this guy is extremely talented. I'd put him up there in that 2020 class with Jonathan Taylor, is arguably one of the most talented guys coming out of that class. But I'm in some trade negotiations right now where I was like, hey, maybe I can go buy low on DeAndre Swift. And the highest I was willing to go, I reached out to somebody that had a surplus of running backs. I had a surplus of wide receivers. And, I've got some good wide receivers on my team, but I wasn't willing to give up any more than DK Metcalf. I didn't want to go above DK Metcalf for what I was willing to give up for DeAndre Swift. And the offer is still out there pending. The other fantasy manager is thinking about it. He's thinking about selling DeAndre Swift for DK Metcalf. It's just kind of wild. We knew the injuries were a concern, but this value is just plummeting more and more seemingly every single week at this point. So I guess I'm trying to buy, but I'm trying to buy low. I'm not trying to buy anywhere near his offseason price tag.
So it sounds like you would take this. It sounds like you would take this trade. Then you take CeeDee. One thing I did not realize in the beginning of this question, it's start 2 running backs, start 3 wide receivers.
So that moves the calculus around a little bit, and then that makes CeeDee Lamb more valuable.
It does. It definitely does. And you're saying, CeeDee Lamb is a great offer for your, this Motor City Beast DeAndre Swift. I think based off of what y'all have just been talking about, you saying you wouldn't want to give up more than DK Metcalf, I'd say CeeDee Lamb's just a little bit more valuable than DK here. So he's getting a good offer here. And the start 3 wide receivers does change things a little bit for me. And especially with the what have you done for me lately? Dak is back. CeeDee's only going to continue to be extremely involved in that offense. So
I think all 3 of us are on the same page here that we'd prefer CeeDee Lamb over DeAndre Swift. I don't think that's a conversation any of us thought we'd be having,
no.
to go from now, but gotta adjust as the season progresses. Now, this is our last question. After we answer this question, we will go to the chat. We've already seen a bunch of questions come through, so keep dropping those and we will get to them in just a minute. But this question comes through from CZV Who. Best waiver wire pickups for week 9. Josh Palmer, Zay Jones, Devin Duvernay, Allen Robinson, Kadarius Toney, and KJ Osborne are the available wide receivers. Available running backs are Kenyon Drake, Dontrell Hilliard, Rex Burkhead, I assume James Cook, Caleb Huntley, and Justice Hill. Got to be Justice Hill. Yeah, that took me a second there. All I could think was Tyreek Hill, and I was like,
Yeah.
not a running back, and he is not available in any leagues. So these are the people available. Victoria, start us off here. Who would you prefer? Give us one running back and one wide receiver out of this group.
Sure.
And this is for week 9. We're not looking at rest of season value. They said it was to play in week 9.
You got to take the obvious, Josh Palmer with the Chargers. Though I did see a report today, coach is saying he's not sure if he's going to be available. It sounds like he will be available.
I think he's healthy.
Week.
I thought I saw something about him being healthy, but maybe, yeah.
I don't think there's any concerns that he's not going to play.
I got you. I must have read the wrong report. Keenan Allen, y'all. Keenan Allen, that news coming out today that his hamstring his injury got worse over the bye week. And people are responding to Schefter's tweet saying, how do you get your injury worse over a bye week, right?
How are you going to get fired on your day off?
Exactly. Only the Chargers, right? Josh Palmer has a great opportunity in front of him. I don't know if y'all saw the podcast where Austin Eckler, running back for the Chargers, super involved in the fantasy community. He was on a podcast earlier this week. Someone asked, who are we supposed to pick up if Keenan's not going to be out there? And he said, the man himself who plays with these guys, pick up Josh Palmer. He's got a great opportunity in front of him. If I had to give it a 1B, it'd probably be Devin Duvernay here with the Rashad Bateman news being out for a couple of weeks. Because guys like KJ Osborne need a touchdown. Kadarius Toney, we don't even know how involved he's going to be, right, with the new KC offense. And I won't get into the rest. If I have to pick a running back, this is really ugly here. This is really, really ugly, especially with, you could consider Atlanta running backs, but we don't know Cordero Patterson. He's practicing today. He didn't give up if he's gonna play this week or not. But he's back. He's back and practicing, so that would diminish the value of the other Atlanta running backs, of course, if he's back. I think you got to go Drake here with the uncertainty with Gus Edwards, especially he's got a hamstring injury as well. He'll probably be practicing and playing, but maybe not in the capacity that they need. So I think I got to go Drake here.
Yeah, and I think Drake is the obvious one, but the only thing against it, he's playing against New Orleans, who's been pretty stout against the run, dating back for what, like 4 or 5 years now? Like people that just haven't been able to run at New Orleans. So yeah, I mean, I'm going Drake as well, but that's a tough matchup. And then James Cook, like it looked like we finally saw some life in James Cook. Like he got some touches last week. Vic, I know you were watching that game as a Bills fan, probably excited. James Cook looked juiced up, and then the trade deadline comes and they say, we're just going to bring in Nyheim Hines. And now pretty much left James Cook for dead in fantasy circles. So that's a tough one for the running backs. I'm going to agree completely with you, though, when it comes to the wide receivers. Josh Palmer, cake matchup against Atlanta. So I love that. I'm going to agree with both of yours, Josh Palmer and Kenyon Drake. I think he knocked that question out of the park. Troy, are you going with those two as well, or is there somebody else that you're leaning towards?
Nah, I mean, I agree with Vic. I do really like Devin Duvernay, though. I just don't like him better than Josh Palmer. And then Drake, for obviously, Hilliard, he actually had a good game. He had a good game last week. We've seen him. He's kind of like off and on. He either sucks or he somehow puts up fantasy points. And I think they go against KC, though. So depending on how the game goes, if KC scored a bunch of points, obviously Derrick Henry is going to do his thing, but maybe we see Hilliard in some passing down situations. Maybe he's involved there. But that's all to say, I'm still going Drake, even against a tough matchup.
And I guess the one other thing I'll add, since you did bring up Duvernay, I'll talk about him a little bit too, because the week 9 buys, I mean, and I'm guessing if they said, I only need a week 9 buy, they probably have Deebo Samuel, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, some big wide receivers that are on a buy. So if it's just strictly week 9, I do prefer Josh Palmer because of that matchup against Atlanta. But if you are a little shaky with your wide receiver 3 or your flex, or you're not confident about the depth you have, then I do like Devin Duvernay, because while I don't have him ranked as high for week 9, rest of season, I prefer him immensely over Josh Palmer, especially with this pretty concerning injury with Rashad Bateman that we don't know how long that's going to set him out for. So, hopefully we gave you a good answer here. We're kind of all over the place with different possibilities and whatnot. But at the end of the day, I think it's Josh Palmer and Kenyon Drake for this week. Maybe Devin Duvernay if you're trying to look a little bit forward at some other weeks. But now for the fun part, we're going to go ahead and jump into the chat here. We've already got quite a few questions, and we already hinted at this a little bit. But the first question, Brett Burton is asking Victoria,
great question.
How do you feel about the Bills getting Nyheim Hines?
Ooh, I like it. You know what? It gives us much better depth. I'm sorry, Zach Moss. We'll see you later. Boy, bye. Thank you for your service.
What
But
service?
it's exactly it was definitely an upgrade. Another pass catching running back. You can't be mad about adding another pass catcher for Josh Allen, right? We're not realistically the Bills not using their running backs in a super traditional role of touting the rock all game because we have Josh Allen. So why would you? I think if you get Hines and Cook on the field at the same time, that would be super interesting.
But that would be weird. I mean, it would be hard to defend, but I feel like it'd be interesting. Like, oh,
Yeah.
so many pass catches. What do we do?
I'm not mad about it too. And first, two more things. Devin Singletary, free agent next year, right? So maybe you're just kind of preparing for that, potentially him leaving the team. And I love Hines as a mentor for James Cook. For fantasy, it muddies everything, but everything was already muddied for Buffalo running backs to begin with, outside of Devin Singletary, giving you those couple good games, but that's okay.
Vic, what do you think this means for Isaiah McKenzie? And it sounds kind of weird, how does a running back affect Isaiah McKenzie? But he was playing so many of his snaps out of the slot and looked kind of good through the playoffs last year, but he's left quite a bit to be desired. I mean, he hasn't looked all that good this season. Do you think this is maybe more of an indictment on Isaiah McKenzie than anybody else on the team?
I think it was just honestly the upgrade from Zach Moss for the most part. I will say McKenzie has been a huge letdown in terms of the consistency. Like every time I feel like he's involved in the plays, messes something up or drops the ball at the goal line, or there was a big drop in the red zone a couple weeks ago, or he's muffing a punt or something like that. It's just not living up to those expectations we all had. I think getting Hines too allows Khalil Shakir, a rookie wide receiver, to really strictly play in that slot role, and I'm really excited for that. I don't know. I really liked McKenzie coming into the season, and he's just let us all down. So I'm ready to see the Shakir show.
I can't wait to see what they have in store for Nyheim Hines because this team was going after J.D. McKissick. They drafted James Cook. They were in conversations for Christian McCaffrey. Clearly, they feel like the missing piece to this puzzle is a running back who can catch the ball, which is Devin Singletary's, biggest weakness. So really interested to see how this is going to work out. Nyheim Hines, if for whatever reason he was available on your waiver wire because he had some pretty disappointing weeks there in Indianapolis, pick him up immediately. I don't know if you can feel confident starting him this week, but this is a major upgrade to both the Bills offense and Nyheim Hines' fantasy value. Next question comes in from Michael Vidala and saying, are we shutting down Mike Thomas? Michael Thomas, New Orleans Saints receiver. Man, 2 touchdowns in week 1, and it just hasn't been anything since. Troy, talk to us, man. What are we doing with Michael Thomas?
Listen, y'all. I remember in the offseason, we talked about Michael Thomas a lot. We were like, I'm done with him. I said I was done with him. It's nothing to do with his talent, but it's just like, yo, listen. And I'm not calling him injury prone. I'm not saying that, but he gets injured a lot. I'll say that.
There's one guy that deserves an injury prone label. I think it's
okay.
Michael Thomas. You have to hold back with him.
I mean, listen, he gets injured a lot, right? And it's just like he's just dead weight on your team. So for me, I'm not looking to look when he's healthy again. If he's healthy again, I'm starting him, right? If he's good to go, you're playing him. Otherwise, it's just you're gonna deal with this frustration all the time. So for me, I mean, I don't know about you're shutting him down. If he's active, you're gonna play him because you know he's gonna be involved in the offense, but.
So let's rephrase the question a little bit different.
Yeah.
How about maybe recouping losses? Like, would you sell totally low on Michael Thomas? We just talked about Nyheim Hines.
I'd definitely sell Michael Thomas. I would absolutely, but it depends on how low, right? I'm not trying to give him up for free, but I'm trying to be out of the Michael Thomas business.
Dave's asking, would you sell him for Nyheim Hines?
Oh, for Nyheim Hines. Oh, okay.
Like, are you taking like a handcuff, satellite, RB3? Are you selling them for that low? Because I
would. Well, it's just straight up. Wait, is this like redraft?
Yeah.
Redraft. Yeah.
Oh, redraft, absolutely. Yeah, get him out of here.
Off my roster and redraft.
Yeah. Redraft. I would do that. Yeah.
I mean, we've seen this song and dance for years where he picks up a little injury and we're like, all right, he's going to miss a week. All right, he missed 2 weeks, but he'll be back next week. And then before you know it, the season's over and Michael Thomas is still on your bench.
I was just going to say, okay, Michael asked again, can't drop him though. try to get something for him first.
Don't drop him.
If you
Don't drop him.
can't, you're gonna drop him, as we've said on the show, as a grenade for somebody else to clog their roster. If you really can't, you gotta be able to get something for him.
I'm not gonna drop him because he still has. I drop guys like I got dropped like Allen Robinson. Like I drop Allen Robinson because of that. But I feel like Michael Thomas is just too good when he's active. So I feel like he has value in a trade. I don't want to just give that to somebody for free.
Or package him up with something. Yeah, I feel like you got to
package him
off of Michael Thomas if possible. And yeah, it's one of those things. If he comes back and kills it, I can live with that. I'd much rather have that than him just sitting on my bench for an entire season, giving me absolutely no production. Next question comes in from Hudbolt12 saying Kenneth Walker or Travis Etienne, PPR. Who do you prefer for the rest of the season? Man,
that's hard.
These are like the two hottest names in fantasy right now.
Great question. I think I know my answer.
Etienne. 1, 2, 3. Oh.
It's Etienne.
Okay. Talk to me about it.
Etienne catches
pass catching.
The
equalizer. Yeah, equalizer.
That's what broke it for me too, is the PPR. I think if it was
so good.
half or standard, Ken Walker looks incredible.
They both look great. They both do. But Etienne is also. Did you see that Broncos game? He was. Oh my gosh, he looked like a superstar.
He did. I mean, I talk about this stat a lot, but rushing yards over expectation per attempt, it's kind of the best running backs is how I look at it. Like the best pure runners, Travis Etienne is sitting atop that list. 2.38 yards over expectation per attempt, just absolutely bonkers. Ahead of it's Travis Etienne at top, Tony Pollard number 2, Khalil Herbert number 3, Nick Chubb number 4. I mean, Travis Etienne is making a name for himself, and this is all while coming off of an injury that was supposed to give him a slow start to the season, and now he is ramped up. He's at 100%. Kenneth Walker, great player, ton of fun to watch, but looking at fantasy value, where those pass catching, even without the point per reception, you're just getting more yards per catch and more likely to score a touchdown. You got to go with Etienne, in my opinion. Next question comes from Olafub. 10 team PPR, 1 flex. Should I start Romeo Doubs, Devin Duvernay, or Michael Thomas?
Ooh.
I haven't seen any indication that Michael Thomas is coming back this week. So for me, it's between Dubs and Duvernay.
I like Duvernay better than Dubs.
I'm going Duvernay here, yeah.
Especially if with Bateman out, yeah.
And Lazard coming back.
Exactly. Yeah. Lazard coming back, and just their whole offense is struggling. Not that I don't think they'll get back on track against the Lions, but
so Lazard was limited today and is no guarantee to play this week. Let's just pretend that Lazard isn't playing for the sake of conversation. Are you still going Devin Duvernay over Dubs?
Yes, because Duvernay is still going to be the wide receiver 1 on the team. And I don't know what's going on with Mark Andrews.
Yes, great point. Mark.
Yeah.
I'm still going Duvernay.
Crazy because Romeo Doubs had his breakout game last week. His breakout game was 4 catches for 62 yards and a touchdown. Let's not get crazy here. He followed up a 0 with 4 catches for 62 yards, and everyone lost their mind. Yeah, I'm going Devin Duvernay here. The dude just been a touchdown machine. I don't understand it. It seems like every time Devin Duvernay touches the ball, he ends up.
He's so electric. I'm so glad he's getting more involved in the offense.
Yeah, he's a guy we've all loved for years, and injuries have just kind of kept him at bay. And then, he was buried behind Marquise Brown, could never really climb his way to top the depth chart. But it's been fun seeing him bust out this year, especially as a guy that we were touting as an 18th round pick. You could have got this guy for free in your draft at the very end of the draft, and he has been paying dividends to that. Next question comes from Brett Burton. Rest of season, standard. Would you prefer Aaron Rodgers, Dak Prescott, or Justin Fields?
Dave, take this one. Tell us all the stats in the last 4 weeks for Fields. Tell me.
I could go on and on and on, and obviously I'm a big proponent of Justin Fields. I like him a lot, but it's really tough for me between Dak Prescott and Justin Fields, and I think I need to think about this one a little bit. We're seeing Dak Prescott rush the ball a little bit, which we haven't seen in the last couple of weeks or the last couple of years. That's exciting, but man, Justin Fields, I feel like you got to go Fields here. I've got him as a top 10 quarterback for the rest of the season. Wouldn't surprise me if he finishes top 5 rest of the season. This guy's just getting 8 to 12 carries and 60 to 80 yards on the ground almost every single week. This guy's rushing production alone is basically 150 yards and a touchdown. That's what he's starting the game with, and then any passing on top of that is just a bonus. Yeah, I think it's Fields here.
Troy?
The rushing upside definitely goes with Fields. I feel that I think Fields still has a floor. Even though I feel with the rushing upside, would we be surprised if he just goes and stinks it up and only gets like 8 points? He still has that. I feel like he's not separated himself from that Fields yet. Like he's done his thing. Like he's looked. I mean, it's really his rushing, right? His rushing has been just very prolific. I don't think as a passer he's been better, but he hasn't been anywhere near the passer that Dak has been. So at least. I mean, we're counting last week, right? I know he's coming off his injury, but I think Fields presents you more upside because he's going to rush the ball more often. He's going to get you more yards. So for just pure upside, I'm leaning Fields, but he scares me. Like Dak, you know what you're getting with Dak. You know he has the upside, but also I think Dak has the floor too. But let's get crazy. I'm going Fields.
Woo!
I like it. And I mean,
had 88, 82, and 60 rushing yards the last 3 weeks. That's what's giving you that nice floor. 100%. He's never going to throw for, I don't expect him to ever throw for 300 yards, 350 like that. He's not that guy. But he'll still get the job done. It's really, really, really close, especially with Prescott, like you guys said, coming back from injury. He's looking a lot healthier. Looked great last week. So this is tough. I'll just join the party and and pick Fields here. It's really close though.
It is. And if you look, I'll just pull this out, it was week 5 that what I've been saying is they took the training wheels off the offense. If you look at, all you got to do is pull up. You can Google it yourself right now, Justin Fields stats, and you look through that game log and it was, single digit pass attempts. He wasn't running the ball at all the first few weeks. I think they just kept him on a really short leash because they wanted to see, how he would operate in a new offense. But week 5 is when they, like I said, kick the training wheels off and just kind of let him do his thing. And since then, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarterbacks that are averaging more points per game since then. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, Tua Tagovailoa. That's it. Those are the only guys averaging more points than Justin Fields. Tua Tagovailoa did it in 2 games, one of them being against the Lions. So, you could make a strong argument. No, I'm not going to go that far.
Let's not talk about the Mr. Trubisky stuff.
But what I'm getting at is Justin Fields is looking good. And there was so much talk this offseason about this new coaching staff doesn't trust in Justin Fields. The new front office doesn't have any faith in Justin Fields. We heard it all offseason, right? Well, this team just went out and traded a 2nd-round pick for Chase Claypool. And I don't even like Chase Claypool that much. I don't think that it was a good value. I think the Bears overpaid for Chase Claypool. But it shows that this coaching staff and this front office does have trust in Justin Fields because they went out and they got him a weapon that matches up well with his skill set so they can get a good evaluation on him for the rest of the season. So, I don't think it's crazy at all to say that Justin Fields is a QB1 for the rest of the season.
Yeah, I think that's not that crazy. Nah.
So let's move on to the next question. And this one comes from Angela Coletta. Should I trade Joe Mixon and Jalen Waddle for Jonathan Taylor and Amon-Ra St. Brown? Should I trade 2 healthy guys for 2 injured guys?
Well,
that's one way to look at it.
I'm not. I like the Waddle side. I like for redraft. Regardless, I like the Waddle side better.
I agree.
Mixon has been awful this year. The volume has been keeping his fantasy production afloat.
Listen, Mixon haters are rejoicing this year. They're absolutely.
So are his touts, because his touts are saying, well, the fantasy points are there, and his haters are saying, well, he sucks, and both sides are kind of right.
No, it's again. He's a little better Najee. That's what Mixon is. He's a little bit better. He's like a fancy Najee. I'll call him that, fancy Najee.
Again, we'll go back to the rushing yards over expectation per attempt. The worst in the league. Chase Edmonds, obviously, historically bad. But right below that, it's Cam Akers, Najee Harris, and Joe Mixon. Those guys, all 3 of them have been terrible this year. Najee's losing touches, and Cam Akers lost his job. It's only a matter of time before they just say, hey, Mixon, we love you, man, and we're paying you, but you're just not getting it done, right?
Well, we saw Samaje Perine on that field a lot more than I expected over this past week. So.
They're basically the same player. They're basically the same. Like when I see
Samaje Perine's got 1/5 of the salary.
Exactly, but apparently in terms of rushing, like I'm watching them, and it's like not much of a difference. Like there's not much of a difference at all.
Yeah, our good friend Taylor Cornell, who was on the Launchpad a few weeks ago. Troy, I know you're good friends with Taylor as well. He has the Who Dey Den podcast where he dives into the Cincinnati Bengals. And I think he said it perfectly the other day. He said, Joe Mixon could not run out of a wet paper bag right now. This guy runs into any defender and just instantly falls over. It's frustrating to see. That being said, the volume is there and the money's there and it's an explosive offense, and I don't think that it's just going to suddenly disappear. So, yeah, I mean, for me, I'm going Mixon and Waddle as well. Is there any update on Jonathan Taylor? I mean, Jonathan Taylor, I've seen so many Jonathan Taylor trades and trade offers over the last few days.
Talk
These
about.
managers are starting to panic a little bit.
I mean, do we
It's concerning.
call him a bust because it's been injury related? But even when he's not injured, he hasn't done anything. Like he has not looked like Jonathan Taylor. Like I don't know who that guy is, but he ain't the Jonathan Taylor from last year. Like it's really gonna. I feel like people like Jonathan Taylor, Najee Harris are gonna definitely make people want to do zero RB. Like, yeah, you have like guys like Kamara who just had a big game and stuff like that, but and like Derrick Henry, still Derrick Henry. But for the most part, you're wanting a wide receiver. You're wanting a wide receiver early.
Yeah. And I think, especially, I tweeted it out the other day with how many running backs are hitting free agency this offseason. Good running backs, too. Like, there are like 15 good running backs hitting free agency. What was that?
Gibby. He's going to be a free agent, right?
No, he still has 1 year left on his rookie deal. So he's not hitting free agency yet, but Saquon Barkley, Damian Harris, Alexander Madison, Tony Pollard. I mean, there are so many good running backs hitting free agency. And then you've also got a ton of good rookie running backs coming into the league as well. Derrick Henry might be the only workhorse in the NFL next year. Like every single team might be operating under some sort of committee. It's just wild how many good running backs there are and how many few desirable landing spots there are for running backs. It's going to be a fun offseason, that's for sure. But yeah, I we're getting off topic here, but I think next year is going to be a great year for zero RB if this trend continues. Next question comes in from Trey saying, evening, lady and gents. Full PPR, sit one. AJ Dillon, Kyle Pitts, or Devonta Smith. Thanks and good luck this week.
I want to point out too, Trey said he actually meant start one further down in the chat. I did see before we answer.
Devonta Smith.
Devonta Smith.
No brainer.
Agreed.
I mean, AJ Dillon has some upside playing up against Detroit. We talked about that, but
can't trust him.
Another one who's been
no.
Another guy who's been terrible. AJ Dillon, the guys who we were hyping up so much, like he was going in the fourth round. He was going in the fourth round.
So, Vic, can you just get us real quickly? We've got a chat, the three of us. Believe it or not, we do talk outside of this show. We are friends with each other and talk a lot of football. Vic, every once in a while, we'll just say this player is dead to me, and that's it. She just won't touch him. So who do we have on that list so far this year? It's AJ Dillon and who else?
Oh, let me,
it was Chase Edmonds, but he's still irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. And he, even in Denver, still dead to us.
Yeah. Dead.
I'm looking up my old list, but y'all gotta keep talking. I'll find my tweet.
Yeah, but Kyle Pitts though. Kyle Pitts, the issue, he's finally, he put up a good stat line. I think he had 80 yards last week. He just looked good. He scored last week. Yeah, he scored last week.
He's looked good all year. The volume just isn't there.
Yeah, but it's like for fantasy, and just like, but continually, he could easily go back to sucking again because there's not going to be any volume. And now Cordell Patterson might be back, so maybe he takes some work. I don't know. I'm still worried about Pitts. He's not until I'm waiting for next year. But the scheme, I like the problem is it's the kind of scheme like Arthur Smith, and they're still in the division, so it's like
first place.
Exactly. They're still in first place. So it's like, why are they going to change anything? They have no reason to change anything. Like, oh, let's run the ball with our mediocre running backs, Caleb Huntley and Tyler Algier. Let's give them the ball a million times. And it's like, but you have Kyle Pitts. Okay. I'm done with my tangent.
Yeah. Wildness. Well, let's move on to the next question. And this one comes from Kevin Fournier. Troy, you could start us off here. Hey, y'all. Trade question. 1 running back, 3 wide receivers, 1 flex, full PPR. I have Chris McCaffrey at running back with Leonard Fournette, Deonta Foreman, and a returning Cordero Patterson. Who do I deal for a wide receiver, and what is a fair return? So if you've got Chris McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette, Deonta Foreman, and Cordero Patterson, who are you looking to sell? I think the obvious answer here is Deonta Foreman, right? He's probably not going to be putting up 35 points a week. So if there's ever an opportunity to sell high, I think now's the time.
Yeah, I feel like if you're going to sell somebody, he is the screaming name to do it. I mean, like you could sell CPAT too. It's just more like, what is your goal? Like if you're trying to get the biggest return, then CMC is going to give you the biggest return. Like if you could get like a super elite wide receiver, cool. But like, I think that Deontay Foreman to me is the obvious one, but in terms of what's a fair return, I think mid wide receiver 2 at least. Like that's pretty much what you're going for, right? You're not going to get a wide receiver 1 for Deontay Foreman, so I think you should go for a wide receiver 2 with upside. I think that's probably the fairest value that you're going to get for him.
So eloquent, Troy. I think you knocked that one out of the park. I think that's exactly what you do is you try to trade Foreman for a wide receiver 2. I think that's the best bang for your buck and the best return you're going to get. Next question comes from Johnny 5 Speds, full point PPR. Flex Khalil Herbert, Raheem Mostert, or Scary Terry, YOLO ball. I'm struggling with this question, guys. What is YOLO ball? Is that Mike Williams? Scary Terry and YOLO ball, or is that Carson Wentz? Or I'm sorry, Taylor Heineke?
Oh, Taylor Heineke. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So Khalil Herbert, Raheem Mostert, or Terry McLaurin in full PPR. You got to go McLaurin here. I mean, Taylor Heineke loves that man.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's full point PPR. Yeah,
I think we had all kind of written Terry McLaurin off early in the season when Carson Wentz was the quarterback, but man, Taylor Heineke showed back up and Terry McLaurin just turned back into Terry McLaurin again. Turns out if you just throw the ball to him 10 times a game, he's going to produce. Next question comes in from Michael Vidala. Tyler Algier or Khalil Herbert this week?
Herb, our boy. Gotta go Herb.
With CPAT most likely coming back. Herb. Right.
Man, I'm looking at my rankings this week, and I got to tell you, it's hard not to put Khalil Herbert ahead of David Montgomery right now. I mean, Montgomery is still getting more snaps. But when Khalil Herbert is on the field, he gets touches. Like his touch per snap rate is so much higher. You know, when you see Khalil Herbert lined up in the backfield, they're drawing up a play to get him the ball. And there are only 2 metrics that David Montgomery is leading ahead of Khalil Herbert: touches, snaps. That's it. You look at every efficiency metrics, even total yards. Despite having more touches, Khalil Herbert still has fewer touches. Khalil Herbert still has more touchdowns. He has more scrimmage yards. I mean, he's just outperforming him in every single metric.
But David, if you take away that 64-yard run in that 1 week.
Oh, yeah. Even if you do, he's 6th right now in rushing. I don't know if you guys saw that. Khalil Herbert is 6th in rushing as the second. I mean, I think you got to go Herbert here.
David Montgomery. That's what he is.
Oh my gosh.
Ooh,
The show is over. Good night, everybody. Next question comes from Terrence McCarthy. Would y'all trade Deonta Foreman for Tyler Boyd?
But the thing is, here's the thing with
Chase is going to miss a couple weeks.
Yeah. So I think that, but that's what we're talking about. We're talking about a wide receiver 2. Chase is going to be missing a couple weeks. Tyler Boyd has been producing. That is a fair value. If you
Deonta Foreman is a dog. Have you watched this guy run? He is a dog.
Okay, but here's the thing.
He don't care.
So we have to also put context, right? So Chuba Hubbard, he's going to come back, right? And we saw when they were both on the field, they both got work. So I think if Chuba is healthy, we're not going to see Foreman putting up those same numbers. So to me, if you need a wide receiver, this is a fair trade because Chase is going to be out at least a few more weeks, right? So if you need some wins, I mean, it depends. If you have running back depth, it's a similar situation, right? If you need a wide receiver, Foreman's the guy you trade. This is the type of wide receiver you trade for. He has upside. He's been producing. He was producing with Chase too, but now he's been really producing the past 2 weeks. So I don't hate it, but it's only if you have running back depth. Don't just do it to do it. But if you can afford to lose a running back to get a wide receiver because you're really thin at it, then yes, this is the type of trade that you should do.
So here's where I'll push back just a little bit, Troy. I agree with everything you said there. I think you made a really good point. But if you're trading for Tyler Boyd, I mean, prior to Jamar Chase's injury, Tyler Boyd really wasn't doing all that much. And we saw that the Bengals opted not to put Jamar Chase on IR, which means that he's probably going to be back in fewer than 4 weeks. So he already missed last week. He's got a matchup this week against Carolina, and then they got a bye week, and then it's pretty likely that Jamar Chase might make it back onto the field for week 11. So if you're doing this, you're making this trade, and you're really only getting one startable week out of Tyler Boyd because you're going to get him this week when they're playing with no Jamar Chase, then the bye week next week, and then the following week, Jamar Chase could be back. So is it really worth it to give up Deonta Foreman for what could end up being 1 week of good Tyler Boyd?
Yeah. Okay, all
I mean,
right.
when you put it in the context like that, but again, if I don't know the wide receiver situation, so Terrence, if you want to give us your wide receiver situation, I'm curious if you're just trying to buy a win. But I also think that yes, I think Foreman is still going to be good, but I think he's not going to. We also I think last week was just phenomenal, right? We're not going to see a week like this, so we also have to kind of bring Foreman back to earth a bit, right? So what is the real expectation? So it's like him and Chuba are going to be splitting snaps. So it's just like he's going to be a wide running back too, right? So I think Boyd, I got to look up his stats, whatever, but I feel like at least past 2 weeks, he's been balling out. So he might ball out again this week and maybe the following week. So it's just like sometimes it's a week to week game. Sometimes a week to week game.
Here's the last thing I'll say about Deonta Foreman. And, we talked about him a lot last
And,
offseason.
and
I love
he's
this
your boy.
dude.
He's been your boy for a while.
He is. And it's just the dude is I don't want to compare anybody to Derrick Henry because that is not fair to Derrick Henry, but Deonta Foreman is pretty darn close. I mean, the guy's 6'2", 235 pounds. He's got a speed score that ranks in the 94th percentile. We see him just trucking through dudes. And his problem was, as a rookie, he got hurt. He ruptured his Achilles, and it took him years to come back from it. So I think a lot of people just kind of forgot about Deonta Foreman because we hadn't seen him play in so long. He got drafted by the Texans, immediately injured, bounced around in the league for a few years, never made it off a practice squad. And then we saw that very little sliver last year at the end of the season when he looked dominant. And then everybody kind of forgot about him again. And now here he is in Carolina looking dominant again. Maybe, just maybe, Deonta Foreman is just a really, really good running back. And we're just finally, we've seen it, 6 or 7 games last year, 2 games now this year. Maybe it's time that we just start saying, hey, maybe this dude is really, really good at football.
That's why I kind of was with, and Troy, you both made fantastic points. I'm kind of on that train though, because we saw Foreman produce last year. We didn't see Chuba produce when Christian McCaffrey went down. He didn't give us that relevant fantasy value. So I definitely see a world where Foreman is pulling away from Chuba and getting the majority of the touches in these next couple weeks.
Yeah, so I think we got a split panel on this one. I'm gonna go with Foreman. Troy, you're going with Tyler Boyd. Vic,
I made the argument for Boyd. I'm gonna stick with Boyd.
All right, Vic, up to you.
I'm sticking with Foreman, but I do agree with Troy. If you have the running back depth and you need a wide receiver, then this is a fine trade. I think it's fair.
And gosh, we were talking about this question for so long, but the last thing I'll say is it's the Cincinnati Bengals and Zach Taylor. So do you remember when Joe Mixon got hurt? What was it? Week 3, week 4, week 5? I forget. A couple of years ago, Joe Mixon picked up an early season injury and they said, we're not going to put him on IR.
True.
Joe Mixon never played again that season. He was week to week for an entire season. So it's tough to get a read on what's happening in Cincinnati and how serious this injury is with Jamar Chase.
I will say last thing. So Edwin, I forgot his last name. Edwin, he's the PT on Twitter. I'm blank. FB injury doc. Yeah, Edwin Porras. I'm in a league with him. He tried to trade for Chase. You know what I'm saying? So I'm thinking that he might be, that was suspicious. I didn't trade Chase. But I'm like, if this PT must have some inside information, he thinks that Chase might be coming back sooner. So I didn't trade him, but I made me go, why do you want to buy Chase from me when he just got hurt?
Sometimes you got to roll with that. I was in a draft with AJ Dillon and he took Romeo Doubs in the 8th round. And I said, all right, this is probably something to pay attention to. You gotta watch out for that insider info.
Yeah.
Next question comes from Ross Bob. Should I trade Hines and McLaurin for Lazard and Foreman? We are seeing the same names pop up in so many questions this week as we got underperformers and overperformers and people don't know how to value them. This is a good question though. Hines and McLaurin for Lazard and Foreman.
I'd rather Hines and McLaurin.
I have to agree with
Lazard and Foreman.
Well, with the
no,
I think you get one usable guy in McLaurin. I just don't know if Hines is going to bring you fantasy value in terms of. I don't know how the Bills are going to use it, but they got Devin Singletary. He's still their lead running back. I don't see Hines bringing you that fantasy value on a week-to-week basis. Lazard and Foreman can. McLaurin though getting peppered by Heineke, and he's going to continue to be the quarterback for a while. So
I think Lazard and McLaurin are pretty much a wash. I mean, they're both middle and wide receiver twos. I don't think you can make a really strong argument for one over the other. So for me, it comes down to Hines and Foreman. And like you said, Foreman has standalone weekly value. I don't know about Hines, so that's why I'm going with that side.
I guess for me, it's Foreman greater than Hines, but it's McLaurin greater than Lazard. So then it goes McLaurin, for me, then it's McLaurin versus Foreman. And then it's like, if it's
Lazard,
PPR.
yeah.
So that's for me. That's how I eliminate it, and I'm comparing the two. So it's like McLaurin or Foreman. And again, I don't know what the split, but the split when Chuba was healthy, it was pretty even. It just somehow ran all over the Bucks. It was completely unexpected. They both looked great. Then Chuba got hurt. And then last week, obviously, he has his 3 touchdowns, right? And I think the 3 touchdown game is making Foreman seem like the greatest running back of all time. So that's why I'm like I'm trying to reel it back in. So it's just so that's why I'm like, I'd rather McLaurin right now, the way he's been getting peppered, way he's involved the offense under Heineke versus Foreman. That's just me.
I mean, the 3 touchdowns were nice, but let's not discount the fact that he's had 2 games without Christian McCaffrey and has rushed for 118 yards in each of those games. So, I mean,
No, he looks good.
Not make it
He looks
sound
good.
like this guy had a Mike Tolbert stat line and stumbled into the end zone.
I know, but
was balling.
Like he looked good. I don't want to discount it, but I'm just saying, like, I'm just going McLaurin. I'm not a believer yet. This is where to see Foreman just balling out season. I could be wrong. Let me know if I'm wrong. Yeah.
If this is for whatever reason a dynasty question, then I'm easily taking the Hines and McLaurin side. But for redraft, I'm still going to stick with the Lazard and Foreman side. Okay. Next question comes in from Terrell Taltowen. The Colts brought up a practice guy. Do you feel how do you guys feel grabbing Deion Jackson? Also Chiefs defense or Packers defense? So yeah, I mean Deion Jackson, I think I'm not worried about any practice guy. Deion Jackson looked like
absolutely.
They're doing it for depth.
Absolutely pick him up. And the guy they brought up is Jordan Wilkins. They need depth. They got rid of Hines. They're bringing Jordan Wilkins back. So not worried there.
Yeah, worried.
And I think I'm going Chiefs here.
I'm trying to think, who are the Chiefs playing? Oh, Tennessee.
Yeah.
So Chiefs against Tennessee or Packers against Detroit.
Especially if Malik Willis. I mean,
but Derrick Henry might just destroy the Chiefs defense. It might not even be a Malik Willis thing. It might be like, oh, Derrick Henry's scoring all these points on my defense.
Well, I thought Malik Willis was just a 1 week thing. Tannehill's coming back in, right?
Tannehill
It was a
practice
flu, right?
Today in limited fashion.
Tannehill will be back. The Packers Swiss cheese defense, all the pun intended, going up against Detroit. I mean, Detroit's been hanging like 35, 40 points a week.
They didn't score.
They didn't last week. I'm going to go Chiefs here too. And then Deion Jackson, I think we're all in agreement that you're starting him. This question comes in from Steve Ice. General question about trade deadlines in fantasy. Our league allows or follows the NFL trade deadline. I think that's too soon. How can I convince my league not to be the no fun league?
I like.
You guys mind if I take this one? I've got the perfect one. So what my league does, my home league, because we had moved the trade deadline forward and backwards, and then it was too early, and then it was too late, and we were constantly moving our trade deadline, and it always felt like there was somebody that was just getting an unfair advantage at the trade deadline. So what we do now is once you are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs, you're done trading, and that's it. So you can trade all the way up. We have no trade deadline. Once the playoffs start, that's our trade deadline. But anybody is free to trade as long as their team is still alive. So, if you're a team right now that's 0-8, tough luck. You can't trade. You're mathematically out of the playoffs. There are a lot of tools out there that you can use to show your playoff probability. But once a team is mathematically eliminated, unable to make the playoffs, their trade privileges are revoked. That's how we do it.
No, I think that's fair. I think that's how it should be. I mean, most of my leagues don't have a trade deadline, or if it's like right up into the playoffs. But I think the playoffs should be a key indicator of like, hey, if you're in the playoffs, you can trade. Even though I feel like it's kind of weird trading in the playoffs because you're kind of going against each other. But
but that's why we stopped that too. It does get a little bit dicey once you're in the playoffs. But so what we do, anybody can trade up until the trade deadline up until the playoffs start until you are mathematically eliminated from the playoffs.
I think I like that strategy.
We've been doing that for like 6 years now and haven't had any issues with it. Seems to be smooth sailing. So I can't even remember who came up with that in our league, but props to whoever did because it's been working for us. Next question comes from David Black. Have a lot of good players, more than I can start each week, but I am very weak at tight end. What do you guys think about Higgins and Jamal Williams for Mark Andrews in PPR? Smash.
I love that. Yeah.
Yes.
If you can do that, yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, I'd probably trade away T. Higgins and Jamal Williams for a tight end that isn't Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce. I mean, Greg
Dulcich?
No, I'm not doing that. Stop.
Okay, all right. I just put feelers out there.
Since we bought the man up and we've only got a couple minutes left, we might not get to talk about Greg Dulcich again. Let me just point out, I don't know if you guys saw this or not. He is third in receiving yards per game among tight
How?
ends.
He didn't even, he just played. He just started playing, which is crazy.
Per game.
Oh, per game. Okay.
Per game. But it is Travis Kelce, Mark Andrews, Greg Dulcich.
And Greg, baby.
Crazy.
It's our guy. It's our guy. I love to see it. Next question. We got another one in here from Eric Reimer. So my dynasty team is second in scoring, but I'm 4-4. I know it's just luck of the draw, but how do you guys keep from panicking and doing something dumb? Game theory question. We love game theory questions. So thank you, Eric. I mean,
we kind of answered this one last week a little bit in a different context, but we kind of just said, keep doing your thing. And don't make any crazy moves. If there's something that's gonna help you out that seems rational, fine, but just keep doing your thing because you're gonna start winning.
I
hate to bring up, talking about like my league, but I was in the same situation where I had a ton of points scored and was just having bad luck. I had a losing record, and then I won last week, had another really high scoring week, and I jumped from 7th to 2nd place. When you've got those points, that's when you start jumping up standings with every single win. So just stay the pace, Eric. You got this, man.
Yeah, I was in the same situation with my league. I was 9th. I was 1st in points. Won the week, jump all the way to 5th. So I'm in 5th place now.
And then you win again this week, and you're probably going to be sitting in 2nd or 3rd.
Exactly.
I mean, when you got those points, don't worry about your standings too much. We're still so early in the season. So much of this has just been dumb luck. If you're putting up a lot of points, your team is in a good spot. Just stay the course. You're going to make the playoffs. And really, I mean, most leagues nowadays, whether if it's a 12-team league, usually have the bye weeks built into the playoffs. So you got a 50% chance of making the playoffs. You're at 4-4 right now. You'd make the playoffs if the season ended today. So just stick with it. All you got to do is make it into the playoffs, and then it's anybody's game. Got another question here. Brian Robinson or Chuba Hubbard? I know. I'm going to lose.
I actually like Brian Robinson because he's just been getting the volume. He's a plotter. He's so much worse than Antonio Gibson, but he's getting the volume. So I like Brian Robinson.
Yeah, they're both terrible, but I'm going to go with Robinson for the guaranteed volume. But sorry that you're in that spot, man. Next question from Chris. I know this sounds stupid, but I have 3 defenses. Drop the Eagles, Cowboys, or 49ers for the rest of the season.
Oh my gosh, Chris.
Drop the Eagles drop the Cowboys and 49ers. You can have you seen the Philadelphia Eagles schedule for the rest of the season? Let me pull this up real quickly.
The Cowboys, though, I don't know. It's close for Cowboys.
Cowboys have a good defense.
They've been crushing it.
But I think that he just doesn't want the other team to get those defenses. So I get the strategy.
Which I get that, but listen to this schedule, guys. Philadelphia Eagles for the rest of the season. Texans, Commanders, Colts, Packers, Titans, Giants, Bears, Cowboys, Saints. That is a plug-and-play defense.
They might not lose again until maybe the Cowboys when they play again.
Until the Super Bowl when they play the Bills.
They might not lose until 2023. Let's be real.
Yeah.
Hey,
they could go undefeated. They could go undefeated. But look, I can't have them messing with the Dolphins undefeated record. The Eagles got to chill.
Oh my gosh!
All right,
I like the Cowboys there, to be honest.
What up, Herms?
Herms?
Herms, never seen Herms in the chat. How you doing, friend? Herms is saying, "Hey yo, first time, long time. Should I play Kyle Pitts or Dawson Knox at tight end in PPR? I need a win, but Pitts makes me feel icky. Please and thank you, baby." Herms, we all feel gross playing Pitts, man, but you got to do it. You got a Buffalo Bills fan here telling you to start Kyle Pitts.
Do not play Dawson Knox. No. Don't do
Last question. We could not skip over Mr. Scampers,
our favorite cat
in the chat. What's happened to Mr. Scampers? Half PPR. I need to. Devin Singletary, Curtis Samuel, or Benjamin. We got to bench one of these. Singletary, Samuel, Benjamin. Who are you benching?
If Connor's back, which it probably is.
Yeah, and if Connor doesn't come back for whatever reason, then I'm benching Curtis Samuel. But assuming Connor's back, benching Benjamin.
Agreed.
Well, guys, we did it again. Another week, another show. We'll be back for week 10. Want to thank everybody for tuning into the chat. Love it. This show just keeps getting bigger and bigger every single week, and we are so appreciative to everybody that's in the chat helping us out. We think that it is just an absolute pleasure to be able to help you guys, so thank you so much for that. Before we sign off, Troy, let everyone know where they can find you.
Of course, y'all can find me at King Mode pretty much on all social media platforms. Twitter is my home base. I appreciate y'all.
Vic, let everyone know where they can find you.
At FFB_Victoria, Twitter and Instagram. Send me those DMs, start sits.
And you can find me on Twitter at Dave Kluge. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you next week.